Hi there, this is Alvin, and welcome to the Kickstart Commerce podcast, where we share search marketing and domain investing strategies to help grow your business. In today's episode, our guests are Jason Eisler, a longtime domain investor and broker, and the founder of dnadvisor.com, a boutique domain brokerage agency aiming to help domain owners maximize domain sales and profits. Our next guest is Yogi Solanki, a newly minted domain investor that has taken to the domain industry much like a fish to water, having dialed in and refined domain outbound marketing strategies, leading to consistent weekly domain sales. Today, Jason, Yogi, and I discuss how they've approached and refined their outbounding strategies and best practices for selling domains. We also talk about the best types of media, tools, days, times, and more to realize efficient domain outbounding sales. And last but not least, we talk about the 3 rules of engagement: relationship, education, and the close. So with that, Jason and Yogi, welcome, and thank you for making time to join us today.
Alvin, pleasure to be here. Yogi, a pleasure to get the 3 of us on this podcast, and looking forward to doing this.
Hey, Alvin, thank you so much for inviting me again to your podcast. I had fun last time, and now Jason is here. So yeah, it will be great.
Thank you both. I'm a bit jealous because Yogi, probably as we record this, probably Yogi's going to sell two to 3 domain names, knowing him. But no, man, it's actually good to have you both on the show. Looking forward, I think that domain sales, or rather outbounding domains, is quite the hot topic these days. Folks want to know about it. I know that having joined the Domain Social a few times, that seems to be kind of the talk of the town. Hey, how do you sell domains? Is it as easy as picking up the phone? Is it as easy as shotgunning emails out? So I'm glad to have you both here, and I look forward to getting and gleaning insight from you in terms of what you found to work, not work, and then what you're kind of experimenting with. So to kick things off, I know, Jason, this is your first time on the show, so why don't you share a bit at a high level with our listeners, a bit about yourself, who you are, your personal, professional background.
So without taking too much time, my name is Jason Eisler, and I founded dnadvisor.com in March of 2017. At Domain Name Advisor, we provide boutique domain name brokerage and consultants. In the past couple of years, I was the director of sales for .club domains for 2 years, September 2018 till January 2020. After that, I was hired by Cito as an outbound broker and consultant. I was let go due to COVID not too long ago, but I'm time stamping myself in the podcast history right now. Since then, I've also done some joint venture work with Kate Buckley and others. Besides that, I am obsessively passionate about sales in the domain industry. I was born and raised in New York. I went to the University of Arizona, Bear Down, where I graduated in 3 years with a bachelor's in economics. Some recent publications I've been featured in include DM Journal, DMP, Domain Market Pro, Domain Sherpa, Domain Name Wire, and most recently appeared as a speaker in Page House, The Domain Show, and the first ever NamesCon.online, which was awesome.
You've definitely had the experience. You know your way around the industry. Certainly looking forward to hearing more from you. Now, Yogi, welcome back, man. Obviously, so if you don't know who Yogi is, and I'm going to let him share a bit about just who he is. But if you don't know, we do have an episode, his very first episode here, on how Yogi sold 15 plus domains in a matter of 60 days. Now, that being said, Yogi has only been in the industry, I guess since this year. So Yogi, why don't you explain just kind of a bit of who you are and kind of how you got introduced into the industry?
Yeah, Alvin.
He's a wizard.
No, I'm not. So thank you so much for inviting me again into your podcast. I had fun last time. My name is Yogi Solanki, and I'm from India, New Delhi, the capital. And I have done, I have study from Delhi University. It's one of the best university we have in India. I did my bachelor degree from there. Then later on, I went to Australia, and from there, I studied there for 2 3 years. I think 2.5 years. I was studying marketing over there. I came back, and before joining this domain industry, I was in a lead generation business. I was generating leads for insurance agencies throughout the whole world, especially in US. And it was going pretty good, which I mentioned in my first podcast as well. But because of the COVID, things got slowed down. And thanks to COVID, it has brought me into this domain industry. So because of the COVID, I'm into this domain industry. I should not be saying that. I should never be thanks to COVID, because COVID is not a good. I mean, it has ruined all of us life.
But at the same time, it's like, there are millions of lives that are lost, if you will, throughout the globe. At the same time, just like any point in history, just like the Spanish flu, there are good and there are bad things that happen that often bring us to pivots and forks in the road that we obviously did not see coming. And so for some of us, our lives are forever changed in a not so good way, and for some of us it's in a better way. But certainly I feel your sentiment there in terms of while things are good, COVID's not been the best for a lot of people, and a lot of listeners have either known somebody or had somebody that was greatly impacted by COVID. So I guess one of the first questions is then, in terms of just how you all got started, and because when I think about it, you hear domain investors that are either taking a strategy. So like for myself, for instance, I mean, I have a lot of different things going on. And so I've just not made outbound a priority in terms of my strategy, domain investing strategy. But what I have done is to ensure the quality of name that basically I will go after, and that name basically brings me into domain inquiries or either buy and now sales. So that obviously being one strategy. But then for yourselves, like, what led you both to go down the path of outbounding domains?
When I first started domaining, my story is similar to most people's. I started hand registering like a maniac, built my portfolio up to over 500 pretty quickly within 6 months. And I loved buying domains. So, woohoo, I was a domainer. Now I had all these domains that I thought were great, which are all terrible domains. And I should have never posted.
Did you sell any of those?
So that's what happened. I had all these domains, and then I was looking at them, and I was like, maybe I should sell some of them before I keep buying some more. And then I was like, well, how am I going to do that? And I was like, okay, well, people aren't knocking down my door. So I started knocking down theirs. Went through basically my whole portfolio within 6 to 8 months. And then there was a little lull. And then I went through my whole portfolio again. And the names were terrible. So mind you, it didn't take that long to go for end users. But then I was like, okay, what am I going to do? Maybe I should. And I sold a couple names along the way. And if I could do that on those names, I'm telling you, there was a prayer. There was hope for me. So I decided I should take my skills. As I was reading, a lot of domainers were buying domains, but a lot of people weren't at the time doing outbound as much as, I hope people will start doing and people have been doing. So I started reaching out saying, listen, I'm happy to outbound some of your names. This is the deal. My brokerage soon formed shortly after, and the rest is history.
Now, did you gravitate to a certain media in terms of, like, when you say outbound, was it, because, most people are like, I'll go to email because that's probably the easiest thing for me, while others will say, oh, no, I'm going to the phone. Others will still say it's a voicemail, it's text messaging, it's, social networks. So kind of, how did you gravitate? I mean, you went towards outbound, but what was your tool of choice?
I gravitated initially, I think, most people did towards email, I want to say hesitantly, because I didn't really know how to go about it. I knew I needed to put together, like to do it right, I knew I needed to do a drip campaign. I know I needed several touches just for my sales, like background, the money's in the follow-up. So I knew I needed to do that, but my patience, I've worked on a lot since then. I get very excited with my ideas. So the first thing I did was what comes naturally to me was like just sell their phone number. So listen, I could do all that email stuff later, right? I know I need to do it. I'll set it up, but I got this domain name. It's like a dollar bill burning in my pocket, right? I need to spend it. So the domain's burning in my account. All that email stuff will take a while, but the phone's instant. So I just started making some calls. Man, it was terrible. I mean, and every time I've started at .club or at Cito or when I started DN Advisor, the pitch, it probably takes me, depending on .club was a little bit longer because that was complete pivot from .com. Just working on your initial pitch takes a while. Gravitated towards the phones, but then started, including very, very, very sophisticated and tested phone, email, fax, text. I just started doing a test campaign for just fax and just postcards.
Wait, what? Just what? Sorry, what was that F word?
Yeah, a fax machine. People still have them.
I can't say it. It's so old.
No. I don't know. I have a fax app. That's what I'm using.
So wait. So faxing?
Yeah. So I the whole point, and I spoke about this, during my NamesCon talk. It's just about engagement. Just getting in front of the end users by any means possible, and if they do happen to have a fax, while I'm going through, my lead generation and putting them into my, what I like to call a hit list, which is, basically just my contact list, I have a fax. And if any company does have a fax, they go into a fax sequence. It's a 1-page like info kind of thing. And on the bottom, so the best way I'm trying to track these, the fax and postcard campaign, and the postcards I'm printing from my home printer, licking stamps and labels, and so that's been fun and a learning curve also. But I'm trying to test it so this way I could report back for people who haven't done any outbound, but don't want to get on the phones, maybe are unsure about outbound just in general, unsure about emails, unsure about where to get started. So just another thing I could maybe report back to the industry saying, snail mail via postcards and fax machines, but I'm trying to use new technology to track old technology. So I'm putting QR codes on the faxes and the postcards just to see if I'm gaining traction from that. But I'm also obviously going to see if I'm selling domains from that.
Right, which at the end of the day, that's kind of the end result. Yeah, we can look at the funnel, we can look at the percentages of the throughput percentage, but at the end of the day, it's going to be the dollars and the cents of what got sold, what did I net. So Yogi, then obviously you kind of alluded to it there in your intro in terms of having come from a lead gen background. So knowing all that like what, when you thought about, hey, I'm getting into the domain industry, I'm going to do outbound, kind of what was your thought process and how and what tools, I guess, did you lean to, sort of like Jason is testing with faxes as well as postcards and email, phone, texting, all those things. Like, what was kind of your hierarchy or your prioritization? Was it phone first, then email, or, what was it?
I do have some experience in marketing. Before, I joined this industry, I was, as I said, I was generating leads for companies, and I have also studied the marketing. So I use that, my experience, and also, I didn't decide it that I have to, join this industry. It was not like I have made up my mind that I'm going to be in this industry. I just it just happened out of nowhere. I just stumbled upon, yeah, because when I was doing nothing, my business was getting, were burning down. I, I was just looking at the Google and looking for how to make money online. I was just looking for the options. And then, I always knew about this industry. It was always in my back of my mind there that this industry exists, but I never took it seriously. And yeah, and then I thought, right, I think let's give it a try. If it works, I'm just going to give it a try and see how it goes. So, and I used emails, this is what I do. Emails, sending emails marketings are my priorities because this is, I think, what I'm good at. I'm not too bad over the phone as well because I used to make 400, 500 calls a day when I was in Australia, and I was just I was selling some products, and it was not paper hour job. It was commission based. If I sell, I get paid. If I don't make a sale, I won't get anything. So that's how it's kind of started with me. And I saw I went through YouTube. I saw a couple of videos there, and so-called pros, and they were just showing their how much earning they have made. They were just sharing their bank statement. That's okay, but how to do it? That's the question. That's the big question. How to do it? Then I came across a video, which is one of my favorite videos so far, which I've actually downloaded and watched a couple of times. That was a DN Academy and Michael Seiger. So then I realized that this is how to do it. So I went to the website, and then I saw the price there. Okay, that's expensive. So I didn't join the course, but from that video, it all started for me. I have mentioned this earlier as well. And I think I was lucky enough to got a couple of sales, easily. Not that easily, but yeah, I'm pretty fast. So that's how it all gets started for me.
No, I'm not gonna let you try to slide that one over. Oh, I just got a couple of sales. This man came into the industry with literally 15 plus domain sales in a matter of 60 days. And I bet you if I go back from the time that episode ended up till now, I know you've had to sell at least you've got to at least be close to at least 75, maybe 100 domains by now.
I'm not gonna tell you that because whenever I count my sales, how many domains I have sold, my sales get dropped down. So I have stopped
to the day.
I'm superstitious kind of guy. So yeah, I'm not gonna tell you. You just keep guessing whatever you have in your mind. 100, 200. I'm not gonna tell you anything.
Hey man, I tell you right now, if you go and look at Yogi Solanki's Twitter handle, just his Twitter feed, actually, literally, it is like clockwork, my man. So congratulations in terms of figuring out that consistency. One thing I want to go back to though with Jason, and Jason, you brought this up, and I think it's a valid question for both you and Yogi. And you mentioned the pitch and the art to creating and refining the pitch. So, can you both elaborate on that in terms of what did you do? How did you even craft your pitch? And then how are you refining it along the way?
Well, so my pitch, I like to think I'm a student of my craft, and I'm always trying to absorb information. So even, whether I was at, Dot Club, in a co-work space at their startups, Dot Club, or I'm working from home in my home office, or I was back in New York working in my family business as a pawnbroker, I was always listening to podcasts on the way to work, having Audible books, reading books, trying to absorb any information on whether it's just domain names in general, but then like negotiation, sales, and then honing in on who I feel I connect with And Chris Zeiker, I really connect with him. Like he follows a lot of the same people I do. So it's basically just, learning from some of the top sales pros, negotiators, and then tweaking it to my style. And then the pitch is, if it's a small mom and pop shop, like, smaller price point, or, Fortune 500. And then a twist was, selling .coms is hard enough, then going to work for .club. I was an investor in .club before I started to work for them. My first domain I bought actually was from Paige Howe. That's how I made my relationship. I bought it from him on Name Pros. I bought bacon.club from him. And he told me it was a sizzling name, which is funny because he sold it to the Jewish kid who wanted to start a drop shipping bacon business. But I love it. I love it.
Only in the domain industry.
But then the pitch changed. So it took a long time to, like, I have 12 to 16 stage email campaigns. So, to get one message across is enough, in .com, aside from price points and different verticals. Then switching to a .club, I had to go into a deeper meaning, like club connotes community, exclusivity, loyalty, luxury, and then breaking down a different angle and pitch and a lot of different touch points and using a lot of different proof, because .club is new. Like .com, I'm trying to convince them, it'll dog new tricks. .club, they already have a .com. I'm not trying to upgrade or downgrade. I'm trying to give them something completely, I'm trying to sell frozen ice to Eskimos.
Yogi, you, in terms of how have you crafted your pitch and then I guess refined it along the way?
My pitch is pretty simple. I just keep it basic and short and simple. That's it. And I keep it, very personalized as well to get the maximum response and open rate. So for example, what I do is, if I just write it them and let them know that you have this, I have this. If you're interested or have any questions, just reply and let me know. So I keep it very short and simple based on the results I have received so far. But in past, I have tried, I have keep on doing A/B testing. Mm-hmm. Recently what I did was, I was thinking of giving a try by writing a long essay kind of emails, and trust me, it didn't work. I just wanted to give a try. I never did that. And I haven't even received a single reply, not even a not interested or stop bothering me. People didn't even reply to me.
They may be still reading it.
Yeah, I'm tracking down.
I was on mute, but I was laughing a while ago.
They may still be reading it. Who knows?
Yeah, I'm tracking them down, and somehow, in a few days, I just send them email like, how's it going? Have you gone through my email? Blah blah blah. So yeah, I'm tracking them down. So I just keep it very short and simple. That's it. No, nothing like fancy words. It's boring. Yeah.
So Yogi, that's interesting. Now you just said you keep it, short and simple. Now, the one thing that, kind of blows my mind is you never mention the price, or at least I don't recall you mentioning the price initially out of the gate in terms of your email.
Yeah, I never ever do give them my pricing on my first email.
Why is that?
If you're giving, whenever, in my opinion, if you're doing outbound, you are always few steps behind compared to inbound. Inbound means customer is not a king. You are the king, right? Because they are coming to you rather than in outbound, you are knocking on their door. So in that case, on pricing point of view, you are always few steps behind if you compare to the inbound. So that's the reason, I don't give them my pricing. I just let them know that this is what I have. And if you can, I think that will be great. If you upgrade it from whatever you have. So that works for me.
Interesting. And Jason, now do you subscribe to the same approach of not including the price, or, kind of what are your thoughts around your experience in terms of that?
Well, I take a very similar approach. as Yogi with just like whether it's via any type of communication, just being like, hey, like I have this, or did you know this is available? Just like trying to start a conversation. Since day one I started with pricing, but day one I had $8 hand reg domains that weren't worth 8 cents that I was trying to sell for $350. And then I learned quickly. So I started with pricing, and then I'm still testing every day. I'm always testing. Listen, if I'm selling a name, if I'm at Cito and I'm reaching out on a $500,000 name, or we could take that down a notch or up a notch. I'm not like, hey, I got this $2 million name. You interested? Like, here's my card. Tactical, but I'm testing price on a lower level. But basically, just you want to get the conversation started. You don't want to scare them away. But if you think you're going to entice them with like, hey, I have this, $8 hand reg, or I have this $2,500 domain, $7,500 domain, depending who you're targeting and their budget, it may entice them to respond back. So that's why I'm always testing. Just get a response.
Interesting. So now, does the pitch change from, so are you, let's just take, for example, you already have your email pitch. Yogi says he keeps it short and sweet. That's great. But are you taking that same pitch, and let's say I dial up, then is it a matter of I'm using the same pitch, or I'm using something totally different in terms of messaging when I get somebody on the phone versus the email pitch?
They're probably the same pitch spun different ways, because when I say a pitch, I have a pitch, like it's the way I'm approaching something.
Mm-hmm.
But then my pitch turns into either an email campaign or a script, a phone script. So, I'm not just picking up and, dialing in like, hey, Joe, Tuesday, axe.com, thoughts? Yeah. Oh, this is Jason. Sorry. You want to have a script. You want to be prepared. Like, just like if you're going, listen, you're trying to add value. You're coming up to a stranger saying, stop for me, get their attention, stop them, convince them that you're worth talking to and sticking around to listen. And that needs to be planned, whether it's an email, a phone call, a fax, printing postcards. You want to be thought out and you want to be executed.
Right. So essentially it's looking at, when we talk about the 3 rules of engagement of relationship, then likely education, then likely the close. Now, obviously, the education bit can be somewhat of an optional thing, because for some people, they get it and they go, yeah, okay, you made the connection with me. We're in a relationship. All right, how much is it? Then there's the close. When other times it's probably you're going to take a longer path, shall we say, to grandma's house of getting the close in terms of relationship, a bit of education, bit more relationship, bit education, then the close happens. So, coming from that, one of the things that I think that domain investors often want to know, or what I've seen rather, especially on Yogi's Twitter feed, is in terms of that pitch is, so let's even take a step back in terms of, not even focused on what's said in the email, but let's even take a step back to like the subject line. Like, how important is the subject line in that? Are you A/B testing your subject lines?
Yeah, I love A/B. Well, I A/B test everything, but I love A/B testing my subject lines. As to how important it is, this could be a weeks-long podcast, and I would love to have Yogi on it for every single minute of it, because there's just so much education. How important is the subject line? Yeah, it's important, right?
It's very important.
If you're not inboxing, then no, it's not important. So I guess there's a lot of things to think about. But yeah, it's the most important thing ever. So if you're inboxing, that's great. But if you're inboxing and they're not opening anything, you don't know the difference.
Right.
No matter what tracker, I mean, unless there's some super tracker, and regardless, even if you have the super tracker, your message isn't getting in front of the eyes you want it to. And that's where everyone thinks the subject line is like the holy grail. And it kind of is, but now you have the snippets in the email. And listen, basically what it comes down to, listen, you could have the greatest subject line, you could have all your, records set up, your DKIM, your SPF, your DMARC. You could do everything right to get into the inbox, have the greatest subject line, have the greatest message. But basically, think about on the other end. How much spam do you get every day? Are you sending something of value? Even if you have a great subject line, and they open it, is your message getting across? Because they could open it 1,000 times. It's just get your message to add value and to get them to respond back. That's the key. Give them something worth value to them, but get them to respond back.
Gotcha. Now, Yogi, I mean, in terms of subject line, now, obviously, with your background, I mean, and I think I heard you kind of chime in there and said it's very important. Like, why is it, and how, I guess, what testing have you done that kind of proves and says, well, hey, if I include the person's name in the subject line, that's better, or if I include the domain name in the subject line, that's worse. Like, what type of things have you encountered and experienced?
It all starts with subject line. Based on my own data and studies, I also was reading one of the articles. 60% of the email get open only because of subject line. Subject line plays a very vital role to get your email open. A couple of days back, I think I have shared, I did a tweet regarding the subject lines as well. So where I shared some of the subject lines I've been using, and I'm 100% agree with Jason. It's all about A/B testing. I don't just stick with just one subject line, because the more you use the subject line, the one particular subject line, the chances are that it will start going into spam. So you have to do A/B testing, and I just keep it short and simple. Like one of my favorite subject line, which has given me maximum sales so far, is just the domain name and for sale. Like if I have like google.com, I'm just giving an example, google.com for sale. So that subject line, I think it has burned down now because I have shared it with so many people as well. And before me, someone else was also using it. I'm not saying I invented this subject line, but yeah, so I just keep it short and simple. That's it. And no matter, just like Jason said, it doesn't matter how good is your subject line, how good is the body section of your email. It all comes down to the value, and that value is the domain. The kind of domain which you are selling to the buyer. If the buyer doesn't see any value to the domain you are trying to sell, no matter how good is your subject line, even if Mark Zuckerberg is writing an email, it won't sell. So yeah, it all comes down to domain, I guess.
And so what's interesting to me is about the subject line, because the subject is oftentimes the first thing you see, if not the snippet. And I equate that subject to, it's the subject line for the email. But then when I think about the phone, I'm like, it's that opening line. Like if you stumble out of the gate on the opening line of a phone call, it's going to be hard to recover.
Oh yeah, you're done. I've even A/B tested like what's better to use on the first initial touch. What do you use on the second initial touch? Like, so I'm A/B testing the first touch, the follow-up, all of those. And then within those, a lot of different variations also. How many email touches do you give each contact?
The subject line which I'm been most successful with is just the domain name for sale. That's it. Though some might say that if you add the sale into subject line, then the chances are that your email might get landed into the spam folder.
Right.
So yeah, there are chances. I'm not denying that. The reason why I think I have able to get these so many responses and my email are able to get landed into the inbox rather than going into spam, because my emails are pretty much warmed up. I have done my work, homework before sending the email. So they are pretty warmed up and they are old emails. So that's the reason they are going into the inbox rather than going into the spam. The email search, which you were asking me, I keep it pretty standard. My replies, it all depends on what kind of reply I get from the buyer. Most of the responses, I'm not selling like you, like more than $1,000 of domains worth of domains. I'm just selling like on the lower side, like $300, $200, even $100, or $800, $700, $1,000. I have sold a couple of domains for $1,000. So I keep it pretty, standard. My reply, it all comes down to what kind of the questions the buyer is asking me.
So are you doing all this manually? Are you doing it using some
automation?
Drip campaign. Recently, I have started using drip campaign. 80% of my emails are manually. Now my inventory, the domains inventory is getting up. So those domains which doesn't get sold, I use the drip campaign on that, because for those domains I don't need to work that much, spend much harder by doing manual work. So then I decided that let's try a drip campaign. But 80% of my emails I'm doing right now are manually.
Yogi, I did manual drip campaigns for the first year and a half I was doing Outbound. And I had a standard 6 stage, and I would spend hours copying it, pasting, going through my outbox, because I had just left my family. I didn't know if what I was doing was right. I couldn't legitimize spending more money until I started making more sales. So I guess what I'm saying is, Yogi, 2 things, which I think some of the listeners and I'm interested in, is now that you just started doing drip campaigns, who have you been using? And number 2, since you're doing 80% of your outbound email manually, you said, based on everything I heard before, it depends on what they're saying. So if you don't get a response, do you send anyone a second email?
Real money is in follow-up, like you say.
Right. So how many manual drip campaigns are you doing right now?
I'm not into the drip campaign that much, the automated process. I'm only using those automation tools to sell some of my unsold inventories. And I have sold few like that. But as far as the manual emails are concerned and follow-up, I do follow each and every emails. If I keep on track on them and see how many times someone has opened the emails, and whoever opened the most, they are going to be my primary target. So whoever opens the emails, I keep my follow-up time every third day, and I follow up not more than 3 times. If I don't get any reply, I just let them go, rather than keep bothering them again and again after trying it for 3 times.
So you have a 9-day sales cycle, essentially.
Yeah, exactly. That's right.
And then what happens after that?
I'm not going to give up on them. What I did was, I sold a couple of my unsold domains. If nothing happened, if it's completely silent, nothing happened, no reply, no interest, I just list them everywhere. In my opinion, I don't think they are that bad names. So I list them everywhere: Afternic, Dan, Tito, everywhere. So if somehow I get an inbound inquiry, I might giving myself a chance to sell it. But if still I don't get any kind of response, then what I do, I give myself like 3 months time, and then I try to sell that name again after 3 months. And if renewal comes up and if I still don't get any response from there, I might give it one more try. Else I'll go to name liquidate. That's it. That's the last option I have.
So one of the things I actually want to go all the way back to that I heard you say when you said warm up emails, like walk us through what that means and kind of, what does it mean and how do you do it?
Warm up emails means, in general, means that if you create a new email account, for example, any free account on Gmail or Yahoo or Outlook, and you think that, okay, I got an email now, let me send thousands of emails or hundreds of emails. You might be able to do that for a couple of days, but your account will get blocked there because of because of the policy all these email companies they have. So before you send thousands of emails or hundreds of emails on a new email, you have to warm them up. Create one account. I'm just giving an example. Like I just created a new Gmail account, and then I will send the email to someone I know, like my family or my friends, and have them reply back to me. Build a conversation, not just send the emails. Have a conversation in between in those to warm up the emails. Do it for at least, I'll say, 8 weeks, I guess, 2 months. Keep on doing this process. What will happen? Your reputation, your email reputation will gonna increase. Once you successfully do that, I think after that period, you can able to send 100 to 500 emails every day if you do that.
So wait a minute though. Now you just told me it's gonna take me 2 months before I'm able to send hundreds of emails from this given free account. What am I supposed to do between 0 and 2 months if I want to try to sell something?
Warm them up. That's all. but if you are using, everyone has their email ID, right?
Right.
If you have your personal email, which you've been using it from last couple of years, meanwhile, you can use that email to do some outbound. Till the time you are warming up other emails.
Yogi, are you sending, I meant to ask you that before, are you sending emails from a personal Gmail account?
I used to do that, but recently I have got the G Suite professional account, but I'm still using my free Gmail email ID.
So you're still warming it up? You still have your warming blanket out?
Every month I'm warming up 3 emails.
Yogi, I could give you about 10 of my emails after we get off this call. You could send an email to them every hour if you want. I'll accept them. And I'll respond back because I could use some warming too. Always.
Okay.
Winter is fast approaching.
Winter is always here in our world.
So then another tactic that I've seen, but before we actually go to this other tactic, one thing that I want to go back to, and I will circle back around to this other question that I have about another tactic that I think I've seen Yogi use. But Jason, one thing that I heard you say probably a few minutes ago was that you had sent an email to a customer and you saw that they opened it 72 times. How? Like, what tool are you using to have been able to track that? I mean, are you using like MailChimp or Streak, or what are you using?
Better question is, what tool have I not used currently? And this is part of my always testing. So currently I'm using to test Mixmax, and I'm also using Snavio or Snav.io.
Sorry to cut you off. You asked me the drip campaign, which I'm using. I'm using Snavio. So this is the one I'm using.
Yeah, so I'd be interested to hear more about that. So I've been using Mixmax for a while. I'm using Snavio or Snav.io as an email finder, like Hunter.io. But they do have a drip campaign It does look pretty awesome. And they have a bunch of other features that I'm paying for, but I'm only using it for the email verifier right now. Because I'm just so set with Mixmax. And I touched upon this on my Talking Names Con. I mean, listen, if you're doing any kind of outbound, and even if you're not, I mean, you should have an email tracker. At the very least, know when people are opening your emails. I mean, clicking on links is great. Other bells and whistles are great, but at least when someone opens your email, if you're really doing outbound, like how many times, location, stuff like that. But otherwise, you're just shooting in the dark. I mean, like you could be sending the best emails, the best subject lines, inboxing, at the best prices on the best domains. But if no one's responding, like something's off, but like maybe they're not getting it. Maybe they are. You don't know. You need to know that.
Right. And then so the other thing is, because one thing that comes to mind is now with you said Mixmax?
It's all tough. Mixmax.
Okay, Mixmax. So then in terms of that, now Jason, are you able to see, for instance, I know that if you're dealing with corporate companies, so you send the email to one person, are you able to see like they forward it on, or you see email opens from different locations? So let's say you send it to somebody in California, they forward it to somebody that was, based in Chicago. Are you seeing that type of data?
I don't think you can see that. I think that's against some kind of like internet cyber mail police or something. But I can see how many times they're opening it. The person, my recipient, how many times they're opening it, on what devices and where with Mixmax. So like I could see if they checked it on their phone 3 times, at what time, like maybe on their ride home from work, and then they got home and they checked it from their like Mac, like PC. And then the next morning they checked it at a different location from Windows, PC, stuff like that.
So then, Yogi, like, do you use some of the same tools in terms of being able to track your outbounding strategies and tactics and efforts?
Yeah, I mean, same tools. I'm using Snowvio. I don't know how to pronounce it, snow.io, whatever it is. And I'm using their, the Chrome extension to track if someone is opening my emails or not. These are the basics of email marketing. Jason said it correctly. These are the basics. If you are not following the basics, and then it will be very hard. So basics are must. So track your emails, see how many times someone is opening your emails, and keep an eye on it. Don't just let it go. Keep an eye on it for a couple of days and then follow them back.
So then it's not necessarily so this is the old automation versus manual conversation. So obviously with phone, there can be auto dialers, auto bots, whatever you want to call them. Obviously with email, you can do email automation, basically drip campaigns. But to a certain extent, what I'm hearing you both say is you're not getting out of doing the work. Like you must do the work. If you do not put in hours, you're not going to get sales like that. To think that you can pull a magic trick that you can just buy domains and they're going to sell themselves. I mean, that's selling. You're not doing the industry any good, and you're certainly not doing yourself any good. So it's a matter of like, hey, you got to put in the work. And speaking of putting in the work, like let's even back up, because we've talked about tools, we've talked about option strategies. How do you both find your buyers? So Yogi, I mean, like, how do you go about finding, you have a domain, but how do you go about finding who's the best match for this?
It all depends on the domain, actually, how many buyers I can find. So I only try to buy those domains where I can find at least, 100 to 200 businesses, because that will help me to build my email list to get the maximum conversion. And I use Google. I go up to 10 to 20 pages, the first 20 pages on Google, to find the the buyers. And I also, I sold one domain by where the buyer who bought it, they got nothing to do with the domain. They just wrote one article about it, and I still, send them emails, and it was get sold. So it starts with Google. I also use LinkedIn a lot. I wasn't using it earlier, but now recently, in last couple of months, I have started using LinkedIn. Yeah.
Yogi, where do you post this? Where do you post this article that these people find and buy your domains? I want to do this.
Yeah, it was on Google. The domain was handmadeinbali.com. There was the buyer who actually bought it. He got nothing to do with the domain which I was trying to sell, like handmade, arts and whatever he was selling it. He just had one blog post about it because, most of the people, I was also doing the same thing, that even if you see a website has written a blog about the domain you are trying to sell and they got nothing to do with the domain you are selling, if you give it a try, it might work, because this is what I did. He just had a one blog post about it. I pitched him the domain, and he was very interested in it, and it just got sold.
Hold on, back up. So this guy,
yeah.
What's his blog about?
He was just talking about I don't remember.
No. What's his main blog? What's like his blog about?
He was just talking about the arts, like how to make,
So it's like an arts blog.
And he
wrote one article about handmade art in Bali, and you came across it. You pitched him handmadeinbali.com, and then he bought the domain
after a couple of days. Yeah, so
it's amazing. That's a beautiful thing. You're a beast. You're a beast.
No, I was lucky. It was just a one-time fluke. Yeah.
Until it happens twice.
Yeah.
So Jason, like how do you go about finding? Because Yogi mentioned, hey, he's using Google. He's going up through the first 20 pages, capturing sites and contact information. Like, how do you go about finding your buyers?
Yogi's a lot smarter than me. I am very lucky. I inherited this crystal ball from my grandmother, and I have a halo I was born with. No, I do the same thing. Just like Yogi. I don't go that. So I used to go 20 pages deep. I remember those days. I don't go that far anymore. But now I have such a, between my own inventory and broker it, I don't ever really have to go that deep anymore. Sometimes maybe I should circle back, round robin, and it's funny that we're discussing this, which is a tactic I'm just doing right now. So I'm getting to the end of a list, but on that list, a good amount of names have sold. So I'm going back to the beginning and starting on page 10 of Google and going back, because in my spreadsheet, I have notes saying start on page 2 of Google, start on page 4 of Google. So I'm just starting at the back. So I know I hit 1, 2, and then I know I hit them hard. So now I'm starting at 10, people who have much inferior things. I couldn't sell to the people who are on page 1, page 2. A couple months have gone by, deals might have fallen off the table. So now I'm starting at the other end and hitting them in reverse. We'll see what happens.
Now, do either of y'all? Now, obviously, that is and it's so interesting. You're putting in the hours, you're putting in the work that it takes to do that, because that's not a sit down and do this in 30, 40 minutes type of a thing. I mean, that can sometimes take hours, if not days, doing it well, doing it right, and being meticulous about the details. Now, the other side of it, because I hear the listeners out there going, but man, if I don't have the time to do that. Now, do you recommend buying list of possible buyers based on industry, market, or whatever, based on a given domain that they want to sell?
I think certain industries buying lists, it's valid. I think with what we do, it's so it's already so targeted that you need to be targeted on top of that. That like who are you going to dial up to get you a list for handmadeinbali.com? Who are you going to get a list from?
Well, I mean, there are tools that are out there like Discover.org. What is it? There was another. It was Pipe something or another. But
Pipe Drive?
Yeah, was it Pipe Drive?
No, I don't know.
Or I think Pipe Drive is like CRM or something like that. Yeah. But there are a couple, tools that are out there. Discover.org, dataprovider.com.
What are they, scrapers?
I have no clue, but what I do know about them is, and this is just based upon corporate experience. Now, obviously, with corporate tools comes corporate pricing, but they do have small business, pricing in terms of helping to prospect customers.
Yeah, but if someone buy the list, if someone is paying money to buy the email list, it has to be personalized. For one domain, like how many emails do you think you can get? If you are paying someone, money, and if you're thinking that you will get thousands of emails, I'm afraid it's not going to happen unless you have a very good premium name. Like, for example, if you have insurance.com and you go and buy a list for that name, then you have the whole world to target. You can buy as many lists as possible.
Right, but if you have insurance.com, you're not buying a list. But on the flip side, to Yogi's point, right, we're both trying to say, one, we don't recommend buying a list. I don't think buying a list in general is like a last ditch effort, because other people have that list. And listen, I used to work for insurance, and listen, those lists go through so many people. You're handed lists, but it just doesn't. With our industry, every name and every company is different, because you could be targeting the owner for the same domain, and then with another company, you could be targeting the chief marketing officer. You could be targeting the domain admin. You could be targeting the owner's mother. And if those lists are just generated like, oh, Sally in HR, like, you're not going to, even if you get through to Sally in HR, you think she cares that you're selling her, whatever domain. She doesn't even know what a domain is. She thinks it's like just another spam mail. So it does you no good. You need to be so targeted.
There is no magic elixir that you can take you must put in the time and the effort. Because, I think, Yogi, you said you're putting in something like a couple hours a day. More than a couple hours a day, right? In terms of prospecting and emailing and all that. I'm
a full-time in this. So if you are full-time in any business or any job you do, you have to give it time. So I'm giving like 8 hours, 10 hours a day, every day,
So then coming back around to the question that I had in terms, because I remember I said something in regards to, hey, what are we supposed to do between 0 months to 2 months in terms of waiting for emails to warm up? Now, one of the things that I stumbled up on, Yogi, across your Twitter feed was that you often or sometimes also go to a company's website and will use their contact form. Can you explain a little bit kind of what's the idea behind that, or what's the concept?
You're spying on me. I have to block you on my Twitter now, because that's where you're getting all these questions.
Hey, man, I got to do my research on people.
Yeah, that's good research. Jokes apart, I have sold a couple of domains by just filling out the contact text form. I have, and I'm been still now I've been receiving good response from all these companies. Listen, see, I'm not selling premium domains, so I'm not targeting corporate companies, big companies. That's the difference. If you fill out the contact form of any big companies, they're not going to respond to you. They don't care. But So yeah. So my niche is, I'm only focusing on targeting small businesses, and most of these contact us form which I fill and I get the response from there. I can see the response I get from the owners because they are self-employed. They just have a small website, have a small business, so they are taking care of their emails themselves rather than have someone else taking care of these emails. So yeah, I mean, it all depends on how, big or premium domains you are selling. I'm just selling small domains for $200, $300. So that makes a lot of sense. If I only fill up the contact us form if I don't get emails from anywhere. That is my last resort. If I don't get any email, only then I fill up the contact us form. But if you have got the emails, for me, it doesn't make any sense to fill out the form. If email bounce, then also you have to fill out the contact us form.
Now, Jason, have you ever tried that before, filling out contact forms or any other just kind of off the wall idea that you go, man, I don't even know if this is going to work, but it's worth a try?
I'd rather play Never Have I Ever. I do it all, man. Listen, and I still listen. It's not something I brag about. And let me preface with this. This is where so Alvin, I'm like you. I'm a data man. I'm a big data man. I'm a small data man. I'm all about the data. But you can't test this data on bigger names. I mean, you can, right. Absolutely.
Right.
But, choose your battles. And thankfully, I have the full spectrum, selling smaller, personal names, like a churn and burn model,
right.
Selling client names. And I don't know if I should be saying this on the air, but I have experience sending an email to the info at, let's say we're doing a small, let's take a Yogi example, right? I'll send an email to the info at, and then I'll use one of our tools and I'll scrape maybe the owner's email, just one,
right.
Which was almost impossible to find. So I'll do that email. I'll also always check the who is information. If I get that, I'll also send that. If I get their Facebook page, sometimes I'll send them a Facebook message with a picture. Sometimes you'll also find a different email on their Facebook page than you would have found on the who is, and you would have found from your Snavio or Hunter or any other scraping tool, or that's on their website.
Right.
Because I set them up at different times. Always check that. And sometimes I I comment on their most recent or pinned post with my message and a picture, and then I tag their Facebook app page name in it. So not only is my comment being posted with a picture, with the domain names in the hyperlinks that have my Dan for sale landers in it, and a picture of the domain name that I created, let's say it's handmade in Bali. I have a picture of a rug with the words handmadeinbali.com, visit handmadeinbali.com on their Facebook page. I'll like it, and then I'll like all the other comments that are on that post, so the owners see all of that attention and are forced to see either my email to their info ad, their individual, their who is, my Facebook message, or my Facebook comment. So that's a lot of getting in front of. That's a lot of eyes to get in front of just through Facebook and email.
Right.
And then let's talk about postcards and fax and phone.
Yeah, and FedEx and who knows what else.
Yeah, and drones.
Oh no. I can hear listeners right now. Oh man, I'm going to get me a drone. I'm going to paint the domain on it. Fly it
listen,
over.
It's impossible. Listen, it's not easy, but if you will it, there's a way. with all this technology we have today, if you want to get in front of someone, listen, there's a right way, there is a respectful way. But at the end of the day, if you're running a business and, if this is your business model, you're buying names, you're selling them at $200, you have a 9-day horizon for your sales, time frame, and then you're on to the next one. It's, eat or be eaten, and then on to the next one. And then maybe you have a round two.
Now, let me ask you this. So, kind of as we head towards a close, and this is a question that we've kind of hit on, but we've really not even talked about pricing. And so, because there's all these many other factors at play. So I know somebody's out there going, well, yeah, you've told me a little bit about your tools. You told me some of your tactics and strategies, but when do you introduce price? Like, do you allow the customer to bring that up? Or is that something that, hey, I only mention price on the third contact, the fifth contact? What's kind of the rule of thumb for you?
Ideally, and as someone who's doing outbound, who's already in, a negative position, I want everything in my favor. I want all the gods on my side. So I want them to bring up the price. And if you're doing what Yogi said, just reaching out, domain for sale, if they're interested right off the bat, like you said, there's a certain degree of education in every sale. If there's no degree of education needed, he sends that email, they like the sound of it, they're going to reply, Yogi, let me get my crystal ball. You get a response saying, how much?
80% of those are how much with a question mark.
I've never heard that before, but my crystal ball is right. Yeah, they're going to want to know, so they'll bring it up. But that's why I always test also, and I said on the smaller names. So if you're reaching out on an $8 name that you just hand registered and you're going to do a quick flip and there's a couple great buyers, if you reach out and say, $250, $350, it's a pretty easy sale at the end of the day. You're not going to be all mysterious. They're not going to expect it to go for, $25K. It's, handmade scarves in wherever, .biz. So you're selling it to them for $200. They're happy to have it. And then you're on to the next one. But definitely try to let them to bring up price. Don't negotiate against yourself.
Gotcha. And Yogi, kind of what are your thoughts in terms of when you introduce pricing?
I always try to build a conversation with the customers. And also, before I actually, give them the pricing, I do a background kind of check on the companies to see if how big they are, how many employees they have in their company. So I do kind of my background check on it. And based on that, I use, Google appraisal. I won't recommend it, but, hey, this is my way of doing, outbound. Right. So, yeah. So, and so far it has worked for me. The help of God. So I use Google GoDaddy appraisal just to get the idea, because see, I'm not selling on retail value. The model which I have, it's kind of wholesale kind of process. I'm doing it. So based on that, I get the ideas. I do give them comps as well for the comparable domains sold in the past. And based on that, I just let them know about their offer. I also, take this screenshot of the domain from the GoDaddy appraisal and send them over that, everybody knows GoDaddy, they're not going to listen to me. I'm giving my sales a chance so that, they know GoDaddy, who GoDaddy is. So they will trust GoDaddy more than me, I guess. So if GoDaddy is telling them that the pricing for this domain is, let's say $800 or $900. So based on that, I get offers. They will say $400, $500. And look, I don't mind it. I don't mind taking $200 because how much I paid for the domain? I paid probably $10, $20, $50 if I did a back order. So the ROI is good. and that's how my pricing model works. So, yeah.
Yogi's got a arbitrage business, but it's smart and it works. So like I was going to say, I have a lot of comments to make on a lot of things you said, which you touched on a lot of great points. But one thing I did want to mention, and I'm glad we finished on it, was the appraisal. So I agree with you 100%. I don't ever use appraisals. When I first started, I did a similar thing as Yogi. And listen, Yogi, you use it every single time it works in your favor, right? But when your domain falls at, below $69, you don't send the picture of the appraisal, right?
That's right.
Right. So listen, we're creating opportunity. That's what Yogi's doing. So he's not just attaching a picture of an appraisal. He found that because he's hand registered and the common public doesn't know that, first of all, appraisals are all cockamamie nonsense, but also GoDaddy on most hand reg or whatever domains will appraise it between $600 and $900 on average. Unless it's a new extension and unless it's really terrible, GoDaddy will on average appraise it between $600 and $900. So it's not bad for someone who bought a domain 5 seconds ago for $8 or $10 or $20 to send out an email that shows the domain's appraised for, let's say on the lower side, 600. I'm offering it to you for 400. They come back to him and say, we'll give you 200. He says, deal. Want to do it 10 times more?
The other thing that you all got me thinking about, which I think is probably a good place here that we really didn't get to talk. We touched on it a bit, but like, I know that hearing everything that we've heard thus far, somebody's going to go out there. They're going to want to start this outbound process. And they're going to say, oh, but one thing that I never heard them talk about was the best days, the best times to do all of this stuff. And so, kind of what's been your own experience? Is there, is Monday, is that the best day to send email, or is it the best day to follow up, or is it Thursday or Wednesday or Friday? Like, kind of what's been your experience around the best days, the best times to, start outbounding domains?
Best time is now, baby.
True.
Best time was yesterday. Second best time is now.
For me, I mean, based on my own data and the studies which I have done by other, marketing companies, the best days are Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Those 3 days, I get the maximum response from the buyers. And timing, and the timing totally, depends on where you are targeting the customers. Right. Like most of so there are different time, slots you can choose, but the best times are morning and at evening. For example, you can start at somewhere about 6 in the morning where you will get the maximum response, because nowadays everyone is on mobile and our day starts by replying to emails, by looking at the notification we have received. So if you do it at early morning, 6 or 7 o'clock, you will get some very good response. 9 or 10 o'clock, also good. At evening, you can send emails about 6 or 7 p.m. So that also good.
Yogi's right. So it's old marketing knowledge, and I mean real old marketing knowledge or sales knowledge to sell on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Back to the assembly line days when everybody wants to get out of work on Fridays. Everybody's thinking of the weekend, TGIF. Monday, everybody's putting out fires. The last thing anybody wants is being back at work, let alone being sold something they didn't even know existed their first day back at work. So Yogi's right there. But then let's go real low level. So the tool I'm using, Mixmax, that tool will tell you individually. So if you're sending out individual emails, what time for that person, their inbox is most active. So if I'm sending out an email to Alvin, and Alvin, let's say, batches his emails or uses an app that only gives him access to his inbox twice a day. Because and you could see the activity spikes in the time charts. It's all zero. And then at 12 noon, everybody, it's just spiked completely to 100. And then it goes back down to zero. And then at 4 p.m., it spiked to 100. So the company puts locks on their corporate emails for them only to get access to it at 12 and 4. So you would send the emails to that company and those individuals at those times. For the same domain name in the next company, it may be different times. So there are tools that could help you, but I've been testing it personally over the years before the tools came out. And just for anyone who's looking to get into outbound, I would also suggest holidays is a great time. People think holidays is a terrible time because people are wet. People look for any excuse to get away from their families. You shoot them an email, they'll use any excuse to get up from the table, respond to your email. I get my best response rates on the holidays. And really other great tip, Sunday night, starting at around 6 to 8 p.m. because a lot, depending on the time zone, because people are starting to get prepared for their work week. So if you hit them then, not too many people are, and they're getting prepared, and they'll usually want to get ahead of it before they get into the office on Monday. So you usually get a reply.
Well, that is awesome. So wrapping up here, gentlemen, what would be your advice? Everybody's heard all this just knowledge of domain outbound strategies and best practices. And I know people are probably chomping at the bit if they haven't already started to go and try a few of these. What would your advice be to someone starting to outbound domains? What's the very first step that you say, hey, do not pass go, you need to go and do this one thing? What's that one thing for you?
I don't call myself an expert yet, but see, if you want to start, if any beginner is listening, they should start with someone they have prior experience working in it. That will help them a lot, and that will make their life much easier. Because I'll give you my example. I started with insurance by selling a couple of insurance related domains because I had the experience in that industry, and I used that experience for my advantage. And I was able to get the sales. I was able to get the domains. I was able to get sold a couple of domains pretty fast. And that really gave me a lot of confidence to start and look for in other niche, you can say. So start with your niche, which you have the experience. And based on that, once you get a couple of sales, you get the confidence coming in you, then you can move on to another niche. And you have to give some time in it. It doesn't happen overnight. You have to do lots of planning. You have to pick, good names. You have to do some research on getting the leads. So if you're thinking that you can, by sending a couple of emails, you can get sales, I'm afraid, it doesn't happen. So yeah, give yourself time, listen to your podcast, listen to Alvin podcast, follow Jason, and these guys are great. And if someone is listening to this and trying to do outbound, Jason is the one they should be following it, because I have learned so much from Jason.
Awesome. Jason, what about you? What's that one thing that you would advise someone that's just entering and they're thinking man, I'm about to try to set the domain outbounding world on fire in terms of sales? Where should they start? What's the first thing that they should do?
If I was interested right now, I would email me at Jason. Are you ready for this? No, selfless plug. Email me at Jason at helpwithmydomain.com. I have a new venture in the works, actually, for all you wannabe outbound sales maniacs. So I had this domain, and actually I just started. I registered it the other day because I wanted to want you guys to warm it up for me because I needed another email and some more aliases. But then I started thinking more about it, and I do have something in the works, actively developing it. So do help me warm up the email, but do shoot me an email at jason@helpwithmydomain.com. And I will have something up in the very near future for anybody interested, beginner, intermediate, wanting to get involved in outbound sales. It's been really exciting, and I look forward to it. And it's my passion. I love it. As many of you know who have heard me talk or have been a part of any domain socials. But I love this. It's my passion, and I want to help anyone who's interested in listening to me, because what I believe is what's good for us is good for the industry. If we could all reach more end users and engage with them, get them more sales, it's just a win-win for all of us.
That is correct. And so you certainly, Jason, you have that contact information there to reach out to Jason as well. You're on LinkedIn, right?
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn, Jason, Jason. My last name, Eisler, Eisler. Same on Facebook. And I'm on Twitter also, on Instagram, all that stuff. Not on Twitter that much, but my Twitter is Baron von Eisler.
Got it. And Yogi, how about yourself? I know you're on Twitter, so certainly drop your Twitter handle there, but are you anywhere else?
I'm not really on LinkedIn. I don't really use that much. So the best way to get in touch with me will be Twitter. My Twitter handle is Y Solanki, not with I, ending with Y. So YSOLANKY. So that's my Twitter handle. And also, Alvin, I forgot to mention something. It just came up in my mind after listening to Jason,
yeah.
that I've been getting so many, emails and messages on Twitter, like, just help me out with my domain, sell my domains. And so I respect that. I want to help everyone, but, I can't really take the whole journey to sell their domain because I have to put the food on the table as well. I have to,
right.
I'm
Yogi, what do you mean you can't help everyone and do your job selling domains all day?
I mean, I'm not a Superman, so I'm not a computer. I'm just a human. I'm not very good in multitasking. So based on that, I was thinking some other domainers friends I have, they've been also, pushing me. I've been receiving some tweets as well to do this. So based on that, I'm thinking about writing and kind of an ebook to help the domainers to how to sell, just to help them, give them the knowledge they have. So it's in my mind. I haven't started working on it yet, but yeah, I'm thinking about it.
Well, guess what, my friend? You just sold a book, and you better get working on it, because by the time this gets to the listeners,
maybe we'll have a collaboration, Yogi. Maybe they don't know what to hit them. Maybe we don't either.
Yeah, sounds good to me.
Exactly. And one thing that I certainly want to say about both these gentlemen here, and this is for the listeners, don't expect to reach out to them and they're going to do the hard work for you. Obviously, with Yogi and his Twitter feed, please, before you DM, before you start asking questions, please take the moment to go through Yogi's Twitter feed. A lot of what we've talked about is there. That's how I got research for the show. Most of it anyway, in addition to listening to some other things as well as reading some other materials. But that being said, like, while we want to help you while we're doing this podcast, because somebody's going to ask, Alvin, why don't you transcribe the podcast? Well, because that's expensive. And that being said, it's like I'm already doing enough to go out, round up people, research, record, and put it out there. And while I am grateful for each listener, at the same time, while we've kind of helped you shortcut the process, like no one is going to do the work for you. So please, by all means, go read their Twitter post, go read their LinkedIn post before we, just inundate them with messages about, hey, help me sell my domain. And so with that, we're out of time. So Jason and Yogi, thank you again for joining us today and sharing your domain outbounding strategies and best practices.
No, Alvin, thank you. Yogi, this has been great. I look forward to future sessions, hopefully. Yogi, Alvin, always a pleasure. Yogi, great getting a chance to actually connect, share some of our ideas, and I have a feeling we'll be speaking a lot on a frequent basis.
Yeah, sounds good. Looking forward to that. And thank you, Alvin, so much for inviting me again to your podcast. People know me because of your podcast, and I will always remember this.
Certainly. Well, that's our time. So thank you, listeners, for tuning in to Kickstart Commerce, where we share search marketing and domain name strategies to help grow your business. Please subscribe to this podcast via iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, Spotify, or Podbean. Last but not least, please visit kickstartcommerce.com to subscribe to the newsletter sharing tips and tricks about the disciplines of digital strategy. Thanks, and that's all for now.